Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Matter, and I'm the Director of Aging for the San Diego State University Center for Excellence in Aging and Longevity, also known as CEAL. I'm thrilled to welcome you to our Healthy Longevity webinar series. We launched this series about 18 months ago to share innovative research, expert insights, and practical strategies that promote healthy aging and well-being. Our webinars feature leading voices in aging and are designed to foster learning, engagement, and meaningful conversation. Today's webinar, Building Bridges, Intergenerational Allyship Framework, highlights exactly the kind of forward-thinking work we love to showcase. Our presenters are all alumni of the ASA RISE Fellowship, the American Society on Aging's leadership development program that elevates diverse voices, strengthens leadership, and drives transformative change across the aging ecosystem. As a proud ASA RISE alumni myself, I'm excited for today's presentation. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to our presenters for introductions.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Wheeler. I am a program manager for the state of Maryland, Maryland Department of Aging, and I oversee the supportive communities program here with the state, which is just a fancy way of saying I am in the community, making sure that voices in the community are being heard and being able to provide fundings to grassroots organizations so they can amplify the work that they're doing within the aging field.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cristina Diaz. I'm the Community Programs Manager at Age Options, and we are the Area Agency of Aging in suburban Cook County in the state of Illinois. We quite literally surround the city of Chicago. We're neighbors, and under my purview, I oversee our caregiver programming, our nutrition programming, our LGBT initiatives and supportive services, and a lot of different projects that fall in between.
Hi, my name is Makieya Kamara. I'm the Director of Elder Services at a nonprofit, Action for Boston Community Development. We're an anti-poverty, multi-service organization.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stacy Subida. I am a supervisor at the Department of Family and Support Services with the City of Chicago. We are the area agency on aging for Chicago, and I work primarily with our caregiver support programs, our chore programs, and our senior food box programs. Thank you all.
So good afternoon or good morning. It's 2 o'clock my time, and I think it's 11 o'clock your time. So good morning to you guys. So as I mentioned, my name is Chelsea Wheeler, and I would like to introduce you to Era of Empowerment. Our group name highlights the intersectionality of our identities and that we are today's female leaders. During this presentation, we will be discussing how building bridges came together as a collective through two main frameworks. So through our discussions, we discovered the ties that bound us together. First and foremost, we are all brought together by ASA RISE Fellowship. As women of color, generationally speaking, we are all millennials, and amid seeking professional growth as leaders in the aging field. These commonalities led to the creation of our group name, Era of Empowerment.
So when we want to talk about the language that we use and then be clear about how, we're using this terminology. So when we say aging individuals, we mean older and younger people, people from every generation, because we know that true allyship is going to require a multi-generational coalition. When we talk about intersectional identities, we mean people of diverse experiences, whether you're looking at race and ethnicity, gender identity, sexuality, ability, people who are experiencing aging in a variety of ways. Those living at these intersections of various marginalized identities often move through life with their needs being unmet and ignored. When we say ageism, we mean the discrimination that's experienced by both older and younger people across the lifespan. In the same way that ageism exists and is reinforced over many generations, we know that the solution lies here as well. By creating allies across the lifespan, we can also create a coalition of advocates to push back against these harmful narratives that have taken hold within us and also around us. Next slide, please. So when we first came together as a group, we came with a lot of professional and personal experiences from, that kind of ranged across the board. In our discussions, we talked about the multitude of problems and barriers that allow for ageism to exist. You can see this list. It's not an exhaustive list, but you can see from this list, these are some of the things that have come up, and I'm sure some things that you all have seen as well. If you look at, something like limited access, with that, we're talking about a lack of access to community level, culturally relevant resources for older adults. Um, if you look at things like cultural conflicts, the dominant cultural focus is on individualism, and that can conflict with the collectivist values that many subcultures hold that can further, deepen the divide. Funding discrepancies, we know that they're just, sometimes there's just not enough money, or there is an imbalance in funding where more investment is focused more on youth services versus elder services. And then looking at policy, biases exist and they are embedded in policies and how services are delivered to further marginalize older adults. Next slide, please. So why does this problem exist? Well, it's our top three things that we looked at. We know that ageism, it begins at a young age and it snowballs over a lifetime. Children as young as 4 to 6 years old can begin to stereotype older adults as being less capable. They can begin to see, create, and reinforce division through these in and out groups. If those experiences go uninterrupted, then those perspectives on aging are internalized over a lifespan and become embedded in our subconscious. And it affects the way that we interact with others. It also affects the way that we look at ourselves. We know that ageism does not elicit as much outrage as racism or sexism. Ageism is largely seen as one of the less socially acceptable forms of discrimination. It does not get the same level of pushback as some other issues. Implicit ageism allows for ageist stereotypes and attitudes to exist unconsciously. Systemic inequities are upheld and make resources scarce, pitting people and groups against one another. Categorizing of social groups results in the creation of these in and out groups. It creates an us versus them mentality. Older adults are often pushed out into the out group. They become the them by younger generations. An example that we've all witnessed when we look at the height of COVID. COVID was presented as the boomer remover, right? Or an old person's disease, quote unquote. Society as a whole called for older adults to sacrifice themselves and step aside for younger generations. And this ageist belief was bolstered by things like crisis standards of care in hospitals across the country. Intersectional discrimination was also at the forefront as older adults and people with disabilities were deemed less deserving of life-sustaining care and resources, which were diverted to younger people. Those at the intersection of multiple identities, again, looking at race and ethnicity, disability, weight, age, they faced discrimination that was layered, compounded, and distinct. I will now pass it over to Stacy, who's going to talk about the consequences that came from that.
So some of the consequences of this problem are at best uncomfortable and at worst can be fatal. One of the consequences could be internalized ageism, which is that perception that can outweigh reality. And if we develop this through the life, believing stereotypes about older adults, we are effectively engaging in discrimination against our future selves and teaching younger generations how to do the same. Internalized ageism can lead to negative health outcomes and shorter lifespans. When we look at health emergency of social isolation, there's the in-group versus the out-group categorization that drives division amongst generations, which can create that social distance between older adults and younger people. And the impact of lack of connection has dire effects. In 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General's Advisory on Loneliness and Isolation identified the impact of isolation and the risk for negative health conditions, which increase, such as heart disease at 29%, strokes at 32%, and similar increases for anxiety, depression, and dementia. And most startling is the way the risk for premature death increases by 29%. That can be the equivalent of smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. Another consequence is the lack of accessibility. So viewing this with an intersectional perspective, we find that many communities of color have older adults who can be considered linguistically isolated and defined as a household in which none of the members age 14 or older speak English very well. For example, in the city of Boston, about 10% of Black residents, 60% of Asian Americans, and 54% of Latinx age 60 and older are linguistically isolated. I believe we're going to hand it off to Cristina to talk about the goal of our project.
Thank you, Stacy. As a way to address the problems that we've seen and experienced both professionally and personally, we came to this goal to bridge and build connections across the lifespan to foster allyship for aging individuals with intersectional identities. And now that we know our goal and a little bit of history, I will walk us through a very top-level overview of the two approaches that we use in developing the Building Bridges framework, CEAL and liberatory design. To reach our goal, we began by setting expectations through CEAL, which stands for Community Building, SRC, which means reliance on one another and radical community care. In CEAL, our E is empathy, for being compassionate towards others, listening to understand, not just to respond. Our C is creativity, thinking beyond what has been done before, trying new things, not being afraid to fail, and repurposing ideas, even if they don't function well the first time. I stands for inclusion, ensuring that there is intentionality to include the voices, perspectives, and ideas of oppressed and marginalized people. And our L is love and allyship, centering an ethic of love and deep care for each other, looking beyond ourselves and making a conscious choice to think about and to care for others and embrace where people are in their learning process. So keeping in mind with CEAL, in the development of our framework, we set our CEAL cultural commitments as C, promoting a sense of community and bridging generational gaps to build strong interconnected communities, really leaning into that community building. Under E for empathy, we set our framework commitment as listening to centralized lived experiences and acknowledging intersectional identities. Under our C, creativity, we set a commitment to adopting radical and bold approaches to engage people in meaningful ways, sparking creativity and repurposing modes of interaction, even doing things a little bit out of the box. Under inclusion, our cultural commitment, we really set it as celebrating the uniqueness of culture, people, and identities through intentional and inclusive practices to ensure everyone feels valued and respected and honored. Under our love and allyship, our cultural commitment for our framework is building a loving community that promotes intergenerational allyship, fosters solidarity, and collective responsibility. Our aim is to pave the way for connection and bridging that benefits all of generations. Encanto, as you all may know, a Disney animated film, it beautifully illustrates community commitment. We see this as a wonderful example of CEAL. So Encanto beautifully illustrates community commitment through the Madrigal family's dedication to using their unique gifts to support and uplift their neighbors. Under our C for community building, the entire premise of this film revolves around the Encanto, which is where they are, and their Madrigal family's role within it. Their magical gifts are meant to serve and support the town, fostering a sense of interdependence. When that magic falters, the community rallies around the Madrigal family, demonstrating that their bond goes beyond their gifts and what they have done for the town. The rebuilding of the casita towards the end is a powerful symbol of collective effort and community strength. Under E for CEAL empathy, Mirabel is the main character, and despite not having a gift of her own, she is the most empathetic character there is in the film. She sees and understands the pressures and vulnerabilities of her family members, her sister's burdens, forced perfection, even the older generation of abuela's fear stemming from past trauma. Her ability to truly listen and connect with each family member on an emotional level is crucial in the healing process for all of their rifts and issues that they come across. For creativity, and while some of the family members have the explicit gifts that really support the town, such as Isabella, one of the older sisters, flower generation, the film highlights other forms of creativity. I believe they mentioned one of the Uncle Tio Bruno's visions being misunderstood. It's kind of a unique way of interpreting the future and how that impacts others in the family. However, our main character, the resourcefulness and unconventional thinking are vital in addressing not only the magical anomalies, but ultimately embracing one's unique contribution and highlighting the fact that it's usually not going to be a traditional way. Under inclusivity, the film champions the idea that everyone has value, regardless of whether they possess a magical gift. We do have a film snippet that if we have time, we'll share at the end. But Mirabel, the main character's journey, really emphasized that it's not necessarily the ability, but it's the empathy, the willingness to connect, celebrating the family and community, not just for what they were capable of providing, but also what it means to be a valuable member in pushing things forward. And then under love and allyship, the core of the film lies in the complex dynamics of familial love. Despite their conflicts, the Madrigal family deeply care for each other. And in acting as an ally, Mirabel supports and cares for her older sisters, her uncle, who is sort of chastised from the family, recognizing their struggles and advocating for them. There's even generational healing through the abuela, who is the martyr of the family. And her actions are rooted in a desire to protect her family. The film really highlights and shows the love and involves understanding, forgiveness, advocating for one another through the flaws and trying to just move forward. So we do have a special video to show to really round it about at the end of our presentation today, if we have time. Our second framework that we really lent heavily into in building bridges is liberatory design. Liberatory design is a powerful approach to addressing equity challenges and driving change within complex systems. It's rooted in the National Equity Project's Leading for Equity framework, and it integrates design thinking, systems theory, and deep equity practice. So at its core, liberatory design is both a process and a practice, and it aims to interrupt inequities and expand opportunities for those most impacted by oppression, shift the power by centralizing the voices and experiences of those historically excluded from the design process, and foster critical learning and building among all the participants in all agencies. This framework is grounded in two key elements that are semi-highlighted by this graphic that you have in front of you: mindsets and modes. Mindsets reflect the values and beliefs that guide equity-centered design, serving as the spirit that guides the work. Modes provide process guidance. They offer structure while challenging the dominant norms that perpetuate inequity. Two core modes that you have at the center of this flower are notice and reflect. They're present throughout the entire process. They anchor our attention and ensure that we are really remaining committed to the equity process. Liberatory design is designed as a nonlinear and adaptive process. It can begin with any mode, any flower petal. It can go in various directions. It can evolve into shapes from a hexagon design model as well. It's not represented as a flower with the petals that converge at the center. It's meant to symbolize that it's an organic, interconnected, and evolving nature. But it does ebb and flow depending on the need. I do have to note that liberatory design is the result of a collaboration between Tanya and said that one, David Clifford and Susie Wells at the National Equity Project that came about with the support of Victor Carey and Tom Malarkey. And with having that brief high-level overview of the two frameworks that we've used in building bridges, we will now hear from Stacy regarding the framework and key pillars.
Thank you, Cristina. And so after reviewing those two theories of liberatory design and CEAL, our group developed our own building bridges framework, which highlights 4 key pillars that we'll be talking through with you today. The building bridges framework or roadmap focuses on these 4 pillars or action steps that are designed to build bridges among individuals across the lifespan. We envision a community that connects, supports, and empowers the unique lived experiences of aging individuals through adaptable frameworks at various levels, whether it's in an individual level, community or organizational based level, or a policy level. So the first pillar, if we can click on that, would be focusing on facilitating intergenerational connections. So by bringing people together, we are creating both formal and informal opportunities for growth and learning, as well as strengthening and fostering community building, and more importantly, trust. One of the strongest and powerful tools can be storytelling, which helps lead in knowing and centralizing the voice of lived experiences, and which can work towards dispelling any preconceived assumptions or misconceptions. Oftentimes in conventional spaces, we can create silos among groups. By facilitating intergenerational connections, we want to encourage spaces such as green spaces or community gardens, virtual access, and community events such as block parties or church gatherings. In Chicago, for example, our local senior centers partnered with Columbia College to facilitate intergenerational connections, connecting dance students with older adults. More formal programs such as the foster grandparent program or grandparents or older relatives raising children also help foster community building and connections. Community building encourages diverse participation, generates interest and buy-in, and most importantly, creates fellowship. Our second pillar is supporting culturally relevant resources. So in order to build intergenerational allyship, we embrace intersectional identities, and it's essential that the resources that support individuals are culturally relevant, whether this includes accessible spaces or language access. Financial resources are also needed to sustain any initiatives and can be explored through fundraising efforts, sponsorships, memberships, or grants. Our second example in Boston is a program that's facilitated in 4 different languages to provide access to community members. Our third pillar is empowering advocacy and education on intersectional identities. So finding common ground or a common cause, a shared movement can help bridge differences across generations. Issues can be framed differently depending on the audience. Education includes unlearning biases as well as internal reflection and challenging perceptions and misconceptions in order to understand and become more aware of some of the systemic issues contributing to generational differences. Education on intersectional identities can include intentional and deliberate conversations that are open and honest. Advocacy can often actively challenge systems change. And so one advocacy strategy could focus on coalition building of volunteers, members, and potential funders. And our example here is also from the city of Boston with an advocacy group. Finally, our fourth pillar of our Building Bridges framework is increasing equity through liberatory consciousness. And so one of the key aspects of our solution include ensuring accessibility to resources and activities for everyone. Accessibility ensures that all voices are heard and inclusive of representation, and centers on voices as well as shared lived experiences of marginalized communities. Accountability fosters open and honest deliberation. Awareness includes internal views such as self-awareness and external, such as media. analysis that includes continuous feedback and data analysis, and acting allyship to create buy-in. So strategic partnerships, engaging in stakeholders, and cosmopolitanism, which means no bystanders. An example of this pictured here is the Caring Together Living Better group in suburban Cook County in Illinois, which encourages faith-based participation. Next slide, please. So some of the considerations of our key pillars or action steps, we look to address people and institutions who may not adhere to the above expectations. And so we recommend honest and deliberate conversations, being able to set boundaries at the forefront, such as setting agreements with a group. No isms would be tolerated, such as racism, ageism, sexism. And if necessary, participation would be reevaluated, including a pathway back to community that can be explored if there is improvement or change. The impact that we hope to achieve with our proposed solutions include the following. So first, we would like, through building bridges, we challenge the biases on both individual and collective stereotypes across the aging lifespan by bringing people together to share in communal storytelling via a myriad of both informal and formal gathering opportunities in bringing people together. So we are reestablishing a sense of community, building trust, and collectively addressing the perceived assumptions, misconceptions, or even fears in celebrating our unique intersectional identities. Secondly, the impact is through supporting culturally relevant resources that embrace intersectional identities. We are advancing the opportunities to create resources for our communities by our communities. And these supports may be aimed towards providing spaces in which gatherings and storytelling may take place, financial supports, and through establishing partnerships across different community sectors to emphasize representation and inclusivity. And finally, through empowering individuals to use their individual voices to collectively bridge across the aging lifespan. And by highlighting our intersectional identities, we aim to foster allyship and turn to systemic changes that will benefit all generations. We hope to do this by including collective building with one another, honoring lived experiencing, and bold approaches and opportunities for people to get involved, whether that be through coalition, volunteering, or sponsorship opportunities. Now we are going to hear from our colleague Chelsea to see how some of these concepts have developed into action with the case study in the state of Maryland.
Hello, everyone. So Maryland is an example of how we are implementing this framework in actionable ways as a state unit on aging. So LRM, Longevity Ready Maryland, is an initiative that our governor almost 2 years ago now, and time is flying, signed as an executive order. The overall framework for achieving our vision and planning ahead for the changing demographics we're experiencing here in Maryland. But most importantly, it acknowledges that we are not prepared in it as a system or in a mindset. So why is this a big deal? Well, LRM is the executive order mandates to the Department of Aging that we needed to develop a multi-sector plan on aging, access existing services and supports reviews existing services and review the data. We are to recommend a plan of action to transform the infrastructure and services, access progress, including through an LRM dashboard, which is a data dashboard that is public to anyone, to actually see what policies that we're doing are making change at the ground level in the community. So to just give you a little short timeline, we developed a stakeholder engagement in various forms until now, including work groups that provided specific recommendations for objectives and strategies. MDOA did post this plan, a draft of this plan, in May. So right after ASA conference, it was open for a period of time. And then in late July, the governor actually signed the plan into action. So when we're talking about the different problems that we're seeing, we're trying to address those problems. For instance, we do not want our administration to take this plan, and once they leave out of office, people forget about it. They put it on a shelf. So in Maryland, our next step is actually codifying this plan, making sure that no one is left behind in Maryland, and that includes our older Marylanders. Currently, how we are working on this, we decided that we wanted to tap into already existing state mandated work groups. So the plan there is we want to work on this plan as a whole of community, bringing different perspectives, bringing different generations, ethnicities, professions to build out our community. So the value of cross-sector collaboration. One, we're strengthening our social determinants of health, which now is the updrivers of health based on, I think, NIH. They just changed this term. That way we have increased resources for people across our communities. So when bringing together diverse sectors, this not only sounds good, but it amplifies our collective impact by pooling resources, expertise to tackle complex community challenges holistically, breaking down those silos, fostering innovation. Crucially, a unified plan that genuinely reflects the community's diversity, ensures equitable outcomes, cultivates belonging, harnesses varied perspectives, builds broader support, ultimately leading to more relevant, effective, and sustainable solutions to strengthen the process and foster cultural understanding for benefit of all. So comprehensive solutions, cross-sector collaborations bring together those diverse expertise and perspectives. This allows a more comprehensive understanding the community's needs and the development of more effective holistic solutions. No single sector can address these complex social issues alone. Leveraging resources, collaboration allows the pooling of those resources, both financial and human. Different sectors may have a unique resource or strength that can be combined to maximize the impact and avoid duplication of efforts. Enhance equity, a unified plan that represents the diversity of the community, ensures that the needs of all populations are considered, not just the most vocal or privileged. This leads to a more equitable distribution of resources and services. And then increased ownership and buy-in. When multiple sectors and community members are involved in the planning process, there's a greater buy-in and ownership of the resulting plan. This increases the likelihood of a successful implementation and sustainability. Improve communication and coordination. Collaboration fosters better communication and coordination between different organizations and agencies. This reduces fragmentation and improves service delivery. Building trust and relationships, which is a really big part in all of this. The cross-sector collaboration helps build trust and relationships between different groups in the community. This leads to a stronger social cohesion and greater sense of community. Reflecting community diversity is a unified plan should actively engage represent the diverse voices within the community. This includes considering factors such as age, race, ethnicity, income, disability, and sexual orientation. Engaging a diverse stakeholder ensures that the plan is relevant and responsive to the community's unique needs. And then always having that data-driven decision. Collaboration can facilitate the collection and sharing data from different sectors, leading to more informed and data-driven decisions. This helps ensures that the resources are allocated effectively and that the interventions are targeted to the areas of greatest need. And then, of course, last but not least, long-term sustainability. So having this plan developed through cross-sector collaboration is more likely to be sustainable in long term. And this is because they have a broader support for diverse funding streams, better integrated into the fabric of the community. So building a longevity ecosystem. This is one of the 4 goals that Maryland has set for itself. It is I think, almost 100 and some page document, and I'm only going to highlight the building of a longevity ecosystem. This goal focuses on creating a supportive and inclusive community and build local capacity. To construct a thriving longevity ecosystem powered by people, we must foster the collaborative environment where individuals are not just the recipients, but active participants in extending healthy lifespans. This involves empowering individuals with personalized data and tools for proactive health management, fostering intergenerational connections for shared wisdom and support, incentivizing citizens and community-driven research, creating platforms for peer-to-peer learning and motivation, and designing age-inclusive environments and opportunities to enable continued contribution and engagement across the life stages. By valuing the lived experience, promoting social connection, and democratizing access to longevity knowledge and resources, we can collectively drive innovation and build a future where longer lives are also healthier and more fulfilling. To learn more about what Maryland is doing, you can follow us on the lrm.maryland.gov. And on the website, you're also able to, ask questions. And if you did want to get involved or participate or even view one of the work groups, you can do all of that on the lrm.maryland.gov. And that would be all from me.
Thank you, Chelsea. We will now open it up to questions from the chat. The question is, what advice would you give to others who want to share the Building Bridges key pillars in their communities?
I could take this one. The advice that I would give is, one, I think our presentation will be posted at some time. Okay, with this, yes. So definitely share that presentation, but you can also reach out to each of us if you want us to, have a conversation. Start mind melding is also a great way. I actually learn a lot just from talking with the community, and not just the Maryland community. Even at national conferences, I'm always in the mix trying to, understand what's happening outside of my bubble here in Maryland. But definitely share. It's a great way of even having that conversation starter. Like, hey, we sat on a webinar and these are the 4 pillars that they were talking about. What do you think about that? So.
And just to add to that, definitely, I think that's, the work is connecting with your community, connecting with people at other organizations, other agencies. Similar, like when we came together, we were able to identify a lot of the common things that we're seeing, even though geographically we are, kind of all across the country. There are people who want to solve the same problems that you're seeing and want to, have somewhere to go to build, and not just, the aging professionals, but also the people who are living it. They can tell you firsthand their voices definitely matter and need to be centered.
Oh, wonderful. We had another question, which is how much support have you seen from the educational sector, K through 12, in incorporating inclusive or intergenerational curriculums?
It has been profound here in the state because if we're seeing this play out in real time with our federal government, is that departments can be so fragmented and siloed. Having the backing of an executive leadership is not only forcing it, but it's saying we have been living in such a way that we have blinders on, and we were duplicating services. What does that mean when I say duplicating services? It means that here in the Department of Aging, we're doing some of the same programs as the Department of Education. For instance, nutrition and wellness, while we were providing meals to the older adults. But guess what? How many of those older adults are caring for children? And so what? The grandparents or the older relatives are supposed to eat, but not the children? That makes zero sense. So we had to come together to say, okay, if this household is being taken care of, older adults, and they have naturally, if the older adults are receiving this benefit, then the children should be receiving that. But we weren't talking to each other. And so now we're talking to each other. So we're not duplicating these efforts. And we're coming together holistically as a community to say, you know what? Let's break down these silos. Let's break down these barriers because something has to change.
I know here in Chicago, I can speak for, one of the programs that we have is the foster grandparent program, which is more of a formal type intergenerational program that allows us to work with Chicago Public Schools and connect them with older adults who want to incorporate tutoring to those children. So that's kind of one of the ways that we, continue to do that work. And then also in our work with grandparents or older relatives raising grandchildren, we partner with those older adults that are 55 and over that have, that responsibility of caring for a grandchild. And so a lot of the work we do is promote and have those conversations with our local public school system about how we can kind of bridge those resources and gaps that, that population may need.
Thank you, Stacy. I think there's one more question. In terms of actionable items, what is a recommended marketing or outreach approach to get older adults interested in engaging with youth and vice versa?
So I run the foster grandparents program in Boston, and honestly, it is getting them to talk about it with other people, with other older people. So for instance, I had a foster grandparent. She saw someone in a post office and she was like, "Hey, you look like you're my age. You should come and volunteer in this program." And she gave the woman a flyer, and the woman reached out and joined the program and was in the program for several years. So really, we do tend to spend on flyers and going to events and, making commercials and stuff like that. But the older adults are the best marketing tool and outreach tool to other older adults. There's a lot of hesitation around working with younger people. There's also a lot of internal things that I've heard. I'm too old to do this. I've already, raised my grandchildren or my children. I'm not going to be able to physically do that. And then they get in the program and they see that they can. So I would say that definitely getting the older adults involved in that outreach, in that marketing, they know where to go, they know who to talk to, they know who the key leaders are in the community, much more than we do oftentimes. So they are definitely the key to getting more people involved and interested. With young people, I would say, um, we work with a lot of schools and daycares and Head Starts. You find your advocate in those locations. There are people who I'll meet somewhere and they had a foster grandparent in their classroom 10 years ago, and they remembered the impact that it was. And now they're in a completely different field or a completely different location. And they're the ones who talk their colleagues, talk their principals, their teachers into seeing the benefit of having older adults come into the classroom. So you really have to, it's really about the partnerships and collaborations and figuring out who to talk to.
I love
And
that.
also goes back to intersectionality, because so here in Maryland, we definitely we pour funding into organizations that have proposals or projects about intergenerational programming. One of my favorites intergenerational program is called Baltimore Bike Party, where older person is partnered with a younger person, and there's literally what it says, a bike party. They're riding bikes, and then at the end of a trail or whatever, there's a huge party, and this happens every Friday here in Baltimore. It's one of, like I said, it's one of my favorite activities, and that's a great way of, getting commonalities together. And they're like, "Oh, you like biking? Oh, I like biking." And part of that particular organization, there are younger folks that will go out and, if an older person says there's something wrong with my bike, they're going to go out and fix that bike for them. And they're, chopping it up, talking about things where they're like, "Oh, you do that? Oh, I do that too." So, but even in our framework, when we're talking about storytelling and block parties and things of that nature, that's how you're going to, market. Here in Maryland, we have a whole entire team that is dedicated to social media, and that's how it spreads. Especially with, the digital divide. A lot of older people who are afraid to, hop on a computer and do social media. We have younger folks helping them, set up their profiles, things like that. So
I love this conversation that's led to the intergenerational connections, because I don't think we could have plugged it a better way that next month we will be doing a 4-part series on age-friendly month topics. The first one will be on intergenerational housing models on October 7th. So I encourage all of you to join us for that. There's more information on our website. I just want to give a big thank you, and we're almost out of time here, and I want to give a few extra minutes to show the last video to end this wonderful presentation. But thank you all so much for sharing this insight. I think we all found ways to bring this is relevant to the work that we're all doing, and I appreciate you sharing your framework with all of us. And so with that, I will have Cristina close us out with a video that perfectly highlights what we heard today.
Look at this home. We need a new foundation. It may seem hopeless, but we'll get by just fine. Look at this family, a glowing constellation, so full of stars, and everybody wants to shine. But the stars don't shine, they burn, and the constellations shift. I think it's time you learn you're more than just your gift.
And I'm sorry I held on too tight, just so afraid I'd lose you too. The miracle is not some magic that you've got. The miracle is you, not some gift, just you. The miracle is you,
All of you, all of you.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about Bruno.
It's Bruno.
Yeah, there's a lot to say about Bruno. I'll start, okay. I'm sorry about your wedding, didn't mean to be upsetting. That wasn't a prophecy, I could just see you were sweating. And I wanted you to know that your bro loves you so. Let it in, let it out, let it rain, let it snow, let it go. That's what I'm always saying, bro. Got a lot of apologies I got to say.
Hey, we're just happy that you're here, okay?
Come into the light.
The trip was over your night, and no matter what happens, we're gonna find our way.
Yo, I knew he never left, I heard him every day.
What's that sound?
It gets everyone in town. It's a dream when we work as a team. You're so strong.
Yeah, but sometimes I cry.
So do I.
I may not be as strong, but I'm getting wiser.
Can need sunlight and fertilizer. Come on, let's plant some new and watch it fly straight up to the sky. Let's go.
Stars don't shine, they burn. The constellations glow. The seasons change in turn. Would you watch our little girl go? She takes after you.
Hey, Mariano, why so blue?
I just have so much love inside.
You know I've got this cousin too. Have you met Dolores? Okay, I'll take it from here. Goodbye. You talk so loud. You take care of your mother and you make her proud. You write your own poetry every night when you go to sleep, and I'm seizing the moment. So would you wake up and notice me?
Dolores, I see you.
And I hear you. Yes.
Let's get married.
Slow down. All of you, all of you. Home sweet home. I like the new foundation.
It isn't perfect.
Neither are we.
That's true. Just one more thing before the celebration.
What?
We need a doorknob.
We made this one for you. We see how bright you burn. We see how brave you've been.
Now see yourself in turn.
You're the real gift, kid. Let us in.
Open your eyes. Abre los ojos. What do you see?
I see me. All of me.